Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if I told you the market is basically betting on a future that's kind of split? On one hand, radical, mind-blowing tech leaps, but on the other, a surprisingly stable, almost boring world everywhere else. Today, we're going to dig into the prediction market data to build a forecast for 2025. And let me tell you, the results, they are not what you might expect.
All right, first up, let's talk about a bet on the familiar. The market is giving a just staggering 90% probability that Elon Musk is going to end the year as the world's wealthiest person. I mean, that's not just confidence, right? That is near certainty in the status quo right at the very top.
But on the flip side of that, what about something truly disruptive? Something world-changing. Well, the market puts the chances of the U.S. government officially confirming the existence of aliens at a tiny 4%. So think about that. We're super sure about who's rich, but the big cosmic questions, looks like they're staying on the shelf for now. Okay, so let's really dive into what this means. These wildly different odds, they paint a really specific picture. It's a world that's expecting just immense technological acceleration, like foot on the gas stuff. But at the same time, it's bracing for the economy to cool down and taking a really cautious stance on any big political or environmental risks. So let's kick things off with the political landscape. And the big story here is that markets are overwhelmingly predicting stability. More the same, not some dramatic upheaval. I mean, just take a look at the confidence in local politics. Markets are pricing in a whopping 92% chance for Zoran Mamdani to win the NYC mayoral race. This isn't even a horse race in the market's eyes. It's pretty much a done deal. And this super high level of certainty, it's a theme we're going to see again and again in politics. And this right here, this illustrates a really key distinction the market is making. So on one hand, a dramatic change in leadership, just a 3% probability. But on the other hand, a very specific policy action like new copper tariffs, well, that's seen as highly likely at 80%. It really shows the market is betting on the system staying the same, even if the policies within it change. These policy markets can move fast, so to keep up, be sure to follow us on Twitter.
And check this out. This shows a really fascinating little niche where politics and finance just smash together, and that's the world of crypto. Now look, a national Bitcoin wallet is a total long shot for sure, but the fact that this market even exists, it just highlights that growing link between political figures and digital assets. And you know what? This intersection of policy and innovation is the perfect bridge to our next section, technology.
Okay, so let's shift gears and turn to the tech sector. Because if the political forecast was all about stability and keeping things the same, well, the tech forecast is the exact opposite. This is where the market expects explosive, almost certain progress. And when it comes to AI, the market consensus is, well, it's pretty decisive. We're looking at a 73% probability that Google's Gemini will be seen as the best AI by the end of the year. Now, this isn't just a small lead. It's a huge signal of belief in its continued dominance and its whole development path over the competition.
Okay, here's a fantastic example of market strategy in action. When you look at Tesla, the market sees almost zero chance of them going backwards to gas-powered cars, but a 28% chance of selling their Optimus robot by 2027? Now, that is a significant bet on their future in robotics, not their past in making cars. If you find this kind of strategic breakdown valuable, hey, go ahead and drop a like and share this explainer.
And this confidence, it isn't just in one company. It's literally across the entire tech landscape. A 90% chance of a new Gemini release, an 85% chance for SpaceX to break its own launch record, and 79% for Anthropic to have the best coding AI. Look, these are not just optimistic predictions. The market is basically saying that for the biggest names in tech, actually getting it done, execution, is pretty much a certainty. All right, now let's pivot to the economy. And this is where the data reveals a much more nuanced and complex picture. This isn't a story of just straightforward acceleration. It's more like a careful balancing act. So the big economic story right now is all about cooling down. Markets are pricing in a 66% chance of a Fed rate cut in December. And get this, a 67% chance of 3 cuts total in 2025. This is not just a guess, okay? It's a really strong bet that inflation is finally being brought under control. Now, these are the kinds of key indicators that can shift on a dime, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay ahead of the curve. But here's where it gets really interesting. Despite all this talk of cooling off and rate cuts, there is overwhelming confidence. We're talking a 92% probability that the S&P 500 will still end the year on a positive note. So the market isn't predicting a recession, not at all. It's predicting that perfect soft landing we're always hearing about.
However, that confidence has some serious limits. While the market feels sure the year will end in the green, it is highly skeptical of any kind of record-breaking growth. I mean, a 73% chance that the S&P does not break 7,000? That tells a very clear story. Expect some modest, steady gains, but do not expect an explosive bull run.
So this phenomenon, this is what analysts call a market cross-current. In plain English, it's the market basically saying, yeah, we expect positive growth, but we're preparing for it to be a slow grind, not a rocket ship. And understanding that is absolutely key to understanding today's economic mood. So if we broaden our view a little bit, the global and environmental forecasts also reflect this really cautious stance. The markets are pricing out extreme or disruptive events, and instead, they're favoring a continuation of the trends we're already seeing. So, looking at the world stage, the market is just not betting on any major shakeups. The probability of China's economy overtaking the US by 2030 seen as just 31%. A major peace deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia also viewed as pretty unlikely. The forecast is for more of the same, not some dramatic global realignment. And you know what? This cautious outlook extends to the climate as well. The odds of 2025 being the hottest year on record are surprisingly low, just 6%. This suggests the market is expecting a return to the long-term average, rather than another year of escalating climate extremes. For daily updates on how these kinds of environmental and global odds are shifting, our Twitter feed is definitely the place to be. Okay. So, what's the big picture here? After looking at politics, tech, the economy, and global affairs, what's the one unified story the market is telling us for 2025? What does it all add up to? Well, the 2025 thesis is pretty clear. Bet on technology to absolutely race ahead, while pretty much everything else, the economy, politics, global relations, just kind of holds steady. The real engine of change is going to be AI and innovation, while the other sectors are expected to moderate. Hey, if this high-level summary helps you make sense of the year ahead, we really appreciate it if you drop a like and share this explainer. But, and this is a really big but, it is crucial to remember that this kind of market consensus can create massive blind spots. History shows us over and over again that the biggest disruptions, those true black swan events, often come from the very things that markets have priced as being near impossible. And that leaves us with one final provocative thought. Where is the market being too complacent? Where is it getting too comfortable? Is it in politics, the global economy, or somewhere else entirely? You see, the data shows us the most likely path, but that doesn't mean it's the only one. That's all for this analysis. For more deep dives into the data shaping our world, make sure you subscribe.